Hey, hey, hey. Good afternoon. Today is a hot day. It also means it's a get your hair done day. So good to see you guys. We're going to keep talking about purpose. We're going to talk about some of the hindrances, things that stop people from going forward. Thank you. Someone says they love the hat. Good. Yes. So we're going to keep going. Invite your friends. We started our discussion yesterday on purpose, on understanding how to walk out the call of God on your life. And I gave you guys 5 questions that you were supposed to do for homework to ask yourself in order to make sure that you are walking towards what God has called you to do. So today we're going to put it all together, and then I'm going to talk about some hindrances, the things that I see over and over in ministry, in my business, that prevent people from fully manifesting the call of God on their life. So this is really important because we were all made for something extraordinary. Hello, London, Chicago. Awesome to have you guys on. We were made to do something great. And unfortunately, not all of us we call it actualization in psychology. We don't fully actualize our potential. We don't fully walk out who God has called us to become. And so I'm going to talk about what some of those areas are that prevent us from fully actualizing or fully walking out. Thank you. One of my mentees in LA bought me this hat. So it's a real, Oh, someone said hi from Raleigh. Good. You should join us for our worship service on Sunday nights, one of these days, for the person that's in Raleigh here. Everything is on our ministry website. So, all right, let's just jump in. So yesterday we talked about 4 areas. The first question that I had you ask was, what makes you feel alive, right? What makes you feel alive is usually an indication of what the mechanism, I call it mechanism. There's a whole other teaching I do when I teach on how to identify your mandate and your people group and all that. So one of the things that we talk about is your mechanism. What has God put in you to reach the people around you? And it could be through writing, it could be through TV, it could be through teaching, it could be through cooking. What are the mechanisms that God has put in you to connect to the people that He has for you, and that you're supposed to lead, you're supposed to help disciple? Disciplers are not just ministers. All of us are called to lead and disciple people, whether it's in the secular realm or within the church walls. And so your mechanism is your how-to. And the first question I gave you guys yesterday, what makes you feel alive, is your how-to. This should tell you what is already in you that's caused you to connect to people. All right. The next thing that I asked you guys yesterday was, what breaks your heart? What breaks your heart is usually the answer to what you're supposed to fix. We are all, because we have the Spirit of God in us, we have been called to shift the nations, shift people's circumstances, shift people's lives. There is something in us that is a clue into what we're called to solve. So the things that break your heart. And I didn't give you guys this yesterday. Let me give it to you today. Usually the things that you overcome are clues to areas that you have dominion in. The areas that you overcome are clues that you have dominion in. So God will have you break through in certain areas. So you may have been abandoned. You may have gone through sexual molestation and you've gone through healing and you're now whole. God is usually going to use that area for you to minister to and to help people in. You may have struggled financially and you've learned how to manage your finances and create wealth. God is now going to use that very area to help you help other people. So the very area that the enemy tries to use against you to break you and to break your core and your spirit is actually the very area that God wants to use to bring Him glory and to give you life. We talked about how your purpose should give you life. So if you're doing anything in God, and one way that you know it's the will of God is that you feel alive when you're doing it. It could be praying. It could be taking care of your children. It could be working on computers, because anything that God does should give life. If you are saying, I feel like this is the will of God, and you're doing it, but there is no life in it, it's not life-giving, it may not be the will of God. So the very thing that the enemy tried to destroy you with is actually a stepping stool. And usually those are areas that God breaks your heart for. When people struggled, I have of course, a huge heart for orphans and for Africa, but I was born there and I've seen some of that stuff firsthand. So that is an area that God has called me to go back into and change. Let me give you guys an example of how God works when it comes to destiny and purpose. There are times when you will come out of a situation or a circumstance, and God will bring you out of it so that he can heal you, so that he can restore you, so that he can make you better. And then he will send you back, not like back into abuse or back into, drug addiction. But what I mean is he'll send you back to people who have been through what you've been through so that you can help them out of it. All right. Nothing is ever wasted in God. That's one of the things that I always say. Nothing is ever wasted. That means every experience that you have, even if you caused it, even if it was your fault, God can take it and make beauty out of those ashes. All right. Not everything that happens to us is because God willed it. Some of it is because of our stubbornness. It's because of our disobedience. Some of it is because of sin. It's because of what is happening in our family line. Generational curses, spiritual things. So it's not always because of that. And this is really important, to be aware of, that God can take anything and make beauty out of it. So don't waste your life thinking, I come from a family that's messed up, or I don't have anything that I bring to the table. You want to be, I call it a gold digger. Be a gold digger. Look in those areas and then begin to see what God can do. Someone's asking, what is a generational curse? I am teaching on that tonight, really, really in detail, for our online singles conference. And I want to give you guys a code. We got a discount code for people who wait till last minute to sign up for the online singles conference. You can go through my website, askdrfaith.com, and sign up. And you don't have to be single. If you've been married 3 years or less and you did not go through premarital counseling, you have issues, sign up for this conference. The code is destiny. So you can go through askdrfaith.com and sign up under our online courses. It'll take you to the platform for the conference, and put in the code destiny and you get a big discount. So sometimes it pays to be late, but generational curses are spiritual patterns and cycles and dysfunctions that are repeated in your family through generations. So you could have a generation that started out where there was always divorce, and then the next generation repeats it and repeats it and repeats it. Another generational curse could be infidelity. Another one could be poverty. There's different types of generational curses. So at some point I'll do a Periscope on that. All right. So let's keep going. So what breaks your heart? The other question I gave you guys yesterday, which is what I'm going to talk about today a little bit, is if money or fear was not an issue, what would you be doing? So the title of this Periscope were hindrances to fulfilling the call of God on your life, right? And I'm going to give you guys 3 of the things that I see over and over in people that prevents them from fully walking out the call of God on their life. So let's deal with fear for a little bit. And let me see. I always don't have a lot of time. I have a client calling me at 1, but fear is a big one. So fear is the what if. I call them the what ifs. What if I step out and try this business and fail? What if I step out and go to school and I don't succeed? What if I stand up and sing and the people laugh at me? Fear is the what if, and fear is on the opposite side of your destiny. What the enemy tries to do is plant thoughts of fear, what ifs, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens, so that you don't fully walk out and see what is on the other side. And so you have to realize that it's a tactic of the enemy that I see over and over again. I work a lot with artists, designers. I've told you guys we have a workshop coming up for you entrepreneurs soon. And they're so afraid, what if no one likes my products? Or what if I'm not good enough? What if, I get out there and I fall on my face? But what if you don't? What if you don't? And that's what you have to begin to tell fear when it comes to your purpose and to your passion. What if I don't? What if I don't? What if people do love my book that I'm writing? What if people do sign up for the business classes that I want to give? What would be the spirit be if you don't have a desire for growth or success? All right, I'll answer that question in a minute. But what if, you ask fear the same thing. What if I do make it? What if I do succeed? And you begin to combat it. So the enemy plants seeds. Our job is to uproot those seeds and feed it with the truth. And you have to begin to speak to that fear and say, no, God has given me a spirit of love, a sound mind. He has given me the ability to do exceedingly and abundantly and beyond. And that's why we started this series in March, because I wanted you guys to learn how to hear the voice of God. And so when you hear the voice of God, when any other voice begins to come up, or you start having these dreams that are giving you so much anxiety and fear, you can say, no, I know the voice of God, and this is the voice of the enemy, and I'm not going to come into agreement with it. I know that he's called me to have this babysitting agency. I know that he's called me to design clothes. Whatever it is, you have to speak to it, because on the other side of fear is always destiny, and courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing it while you're afraid. God is not looking for you to have it all perfect and all figured out. That's another thing that I see in a lot of my mentees that are perfectionists or have a melancholy temperament. They wanted to have it, plan A to B. And the Lord is like, no, we're getting ready to plant a church in June. And I am a stutter. I study, I research, I am a planner. And so I'm doing all this reading and all this stuff, and how to church growth and how to create certain atmospheres, all this stuff, and which is really, really good, because you can have an anointing, but if you don't have excellence in your anointing, you're not going to fail. But then I realized, you know what? God called me to this. And if God has called me to this, he's going to enable me. So I'm not going to overwhelm myself with all these books and all this studying. We are studying, we are preparing, but I have to trust in God. So the issue with fear is not a lack of faith. It's a lack of trust. You don't have enough trust in who God is to be who he says he is and to do what he says he's going to do for you. Okay? So it's really, really important that you begin to work on those trust issues, that you begin to ask God, why can I not believe that you want to use little old me? Why can I not believe that what I bring to the table is enough? And a lot of times, and I'm going to go into this later, we have fear because we have a lack of resources. That's another reason why people don't fully actualize or fully walk into their purpose. They do not have the resources. But I promise you guys, we have no excuse in this day and age because of guys, save your questions for the end, because I won't be able to read them right now while I'm talking. I'll usually take 4 or 5 questions at the end. But we are in such a technologically driven era that you can find out any information online. Right now, I'm coaching several people on how to launch their own businesses. And they're like, one of them wants to be a coach. She's like, should I sign up for this coaching program? I'm going to pay, $600. I was like, you don't need to do that. One clue for business, and I promise you guys, we're doing a webinar at the end of the month for self-starters, business people, ministry folks. You cannot spend money if you've not made money in your business yet. There are ways to create things without spending money. So we cannot have the excuse of saying we don't have enough resources. You need to Google things. Google how to. When I first launched my ministry 10 years ago, I had no resources except for me. I learned how to put on a website. I learned how to budget. We learned how to make flyers because it was just me. And as we have been growing, now I have people to do that stuff. But if you're just starting out, Google it. How do I do a website? How do I write a blog? And I will give you tools in the free webinar that we have coming up at the end of the month, but you also need to research. So a lot of people, fear is a lack of information because we are not aware of everything that's going to come. And so since we don't know everything that's going to happen, we begin to get anxious. We begin to get fearful. But what we need to do is get resourced. Ask people who are doing what we're doing. Invest in a mentor. Invest in a coach. If you don't have the money for that, watch people online. You guys are periscoping. This is a good resource. So another reason we're not seeing you guys or people fully walk out their assignment is because they're not willing to dig. Anything that is worth value requires an effort. When we say, what is the call of God on my life? It's just not going to drop on your purse. There's rubies and values that need to be searched out. And I said purse because I was thinking of rubies and values, but your purpose is not always just going to fall on your lap and everything is going to be perfect. No, you're going to have to work out some things. You're going to have to learn through trial and error. You may know, okay, God has called me to be a speaker, right? My assignment is to leaders. So most people that I disciple, that I mentor, that follow our ministry are already leaders. They're in fivefold, they're in government, they're arts and entertainment and all that. So you may already know God has called me to be a motivational speaker. Begin to Google free seminars on motivational speaking. And this website is not up yet, but it's called Passion to Income. Well, I'll give you guys all this information. We'll post it up sometime after this weekend. We've been preparing for this online singles conference tonight. So we'll post that up. But I'll help you get started, and then we have other courses to get you going. But too much fear and lack of resources are two of the things that I see that prevent people from going forward in their assignment. If you don't know, ask someone. I do not like, one of the things that my spiritual children know, I do not like laziness. And this is going to go into one of the other reasons that people don't see their purpose manifested. We're lazy. We like things to be spoon-fed to us. This the generation. It's the culture. If it's not coming easily, then we're not going to go for it. Now, there's some people that have that temperament that are go-getters, but a lot of people are just slow. They're just lazy. They don't want to put forth the effort. And then they're like, God, why am I not seeing the manifestation of God in my life? God, you promised me that I would be a millionaire, but why am I not seeing those millions come forward? It has taken us hours and days to develop our products, to develop our site, to develop my business. I work very, very hard. And we are just getting to that point where we're feeling, okay, and my business, we've launched it for 3 years, where we're beginning to see a return. You do not go into ministry to make money. That's why I have a ministry, and then the Periscope, we focus on the business stuff. So anything that we do with our ministry goes back into the ministry. It recycles to create programs. We do have our mentorship through the ministry, but my mentees pay hardly nothing compared to those that go through my business. And it's because those mentees usually become part of the ministry. They become leaders in our ministry. But all that to say, you have to be willing to have grit. Grit is one of the trademarks of a leader, of an achiever. And if you are going to see the call of God on your life manifest, you have to have grit. That's the inability to give up, the ability to keep going despite challenges, the ability to keep going despite fear, the ability to keep going even in the midst of small resources. Even if you just have $20, even if you're just meeting in a little place, the ability to keep going, because success are small, consistent steps over and over and over again. Small, consistent steps yield success. And so we're not just going to step into our purpose and all of a sudden you are that teacher or that prophet that you saw, while you were in your room. There are going to be areas of discipline. There are going to be areas of follow through, and God is going to develop you relationally. He's going to deal with your character. All that is part of walking into your purpose. So your purpose is not just discovering it. Through the questions that I gave you, you should be able to say, okay, this is what I bring to the table. This is what breaks my heart. Fear or resources is my issue. But after you have discovered it, then you have to begin to put the work forward. All right? So, fear, we've talked about fear. We've talked about lack of resources. We've talked about lack of grit or laziness. And then the last one I'm going to give you guys is disobedience. I have people all the time that tell me, oh, God has been telling me to do this for years, but I just haven't followed through. It just irks me so bad. Oh yeah, God was telling me to invent that thing, and now someone is selling it for millions of dollars. Oh yeah, God was telling me to start this, but I was too, afraid, or I didn't, want to go ahead with it. So disobedience is going to delay your destiny. Disobedience delays destiny, meaning there are certain things that God is waiting on you for. Some of you guys are waiting on God to give you a vision, to give you a dream. And, that's why it's good to have a mentor or counselor. I talk to people all the time and I'm like, What do you mean you don't know what God has called you to do? You've just explained a whole vision. You've explained all these things that you're passionate about. What do you mean? It's right there in front of your face. But a lot of times, the more you disobey, the more your judgment gets cloudy. The more you have lack of focus, the more you get confused. Confusion enters in when you know what to do, but you don't do it. Confusion enters in when you know what to do and don't do it. Now, that's one of the ways confusion enters in. And so there's a lot of people where they had a clear idea of what they felt they were passionate about and what God was calling you to do. But because you were afraid or because you delayed it with your disobedience, you're now confused. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know where I'm supposed to be serving. I don't know what my assignment is. And you just kind of stuck. You become stagnated. Confusion always brings stagnation, because what confusion brings is anxiety and fear. And then I've told you guys, fear paralyzes you. And so you're like, I don't know. I can't go forward. I don't know where to go. So you need to obey right away. And when I do this workshop on purpose and income and all that, I'm going to tell you guys, because people will always ask me, I'm multifaceted. I have a business. I want to, develop a CD. I want to own a daycare. Which one do I do first? And so in the next couple of days, I'll give you clues on that, but I'll really go into it during that workshop. All right. Let's finish up. The fourth question that I gave you guys yesterday was, what about your mama and them? So looking at your family history, even if you have a messed up family, looking for the treasures, because there's some things that are genetically wired. There's some people that have, like Michael Phelps, he has a body frame that makes him an exceptional swimmer. So I have to go, but we always talk about, is greatness something that you're born with, or is greatness something that you develop over time? And so I'll have to go into it another time, but I want to encourage you guys, at the end of March, we're going to have, the Mastering Your Communication and Spiritual Gifts course. Go sign up. I'm going to go back into how to hear the voice of God. And then tomorrow or this week at some point, I'm going to teach you how your spiritual gifts are connected to your purpose. I won't be able to teach for long, so you need to sign up for that course so that you understand what your spiritual gifts are and how it's connected to your purpose. And then for you singles or engaged folks, I gave you a code earlier. Destiny is the code. If you want to get a discounted rate for the conference that's going on tonight, you sign up at AskDrFaith.com. All my courses and stuff are on my page. I don't remember dates. So go there and you can see when everything is at. Is that the March 30th one? Yes, the Mastering Your Communication and Spiritual Gifts one is March 30th. And then the Passion to Income one, we haven't set a date for it yet because I have a lot going on. So you can go back to my website over and over and access those. Guys, I won't be able to take questions because it's already 1 o'clock and my client is calling in. So I will chat with you another time. I'll take your questions. I'll try to jump on either later today. So look out for that little ping, or tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye. Talk to you soon.